I never believed in ghost stories, not until I experienced one myself. It happened last summer when I visited my grandmother in her small, sleepy town. A picturesque place by day, the town had a darker reputation once night fell. The locals would tell tales of the phantom train that supposedly roamed the old railway tracks. It was said to appear at midnight, carrying passengers who were never seen again. I dismissed it as nothing more than local folklore, an exaggerated story to entertain bored townsfolk. But my cousin Jake was adamant about its truth. He dared me to accompany him to the abandoned railway station one night, promising I wouldn't regret it. Reluctantly, and mostly out of boredom, I agreed. The station was a relic of another era, overgrown with weeds and vines, its wooden structure sagging from decades of neglect. The tracks were rusted and barely visible beneath the overgrowth. The air felt heavier there, a damp, earthy smell clinging to the night breeze. We arrived at 11:30 p.m., armed with flashlights and a thermos of coffee. The place was eerily silent except for the distant hoots of an owl and the occasional rustle of leaves. Jake was excited, his eyes gleaming with a mix of thrill and fear. "Just wait," he whispered, crouching beside me behind a crumbling bench. "It's always right on time." Midnight struck, and the air seemed to change. The soft night breeze stilled, replaced by a strange, oppressive silence. Then, faintly at first, I heard it. A low, rhythmic chugging sound. My pulse quickened. It couldn't be. The tracks had been abandoned for decades. No train could possibly run on them. The sound grew louder, and suddenly, a light pierced the darkness, cutting through the thick fog that had inexplicably formed. The beam was unmistakably from the headlight of a train. I froze, unable to look away as the train materialized out of the mist. It was no ordinary train. Its carriages were old, almost antique, with ornate gilded edges that gleamed faintly under the moonlight. The windows were opaque, and the whole train seemed to emit a ghostly glow. There was no screech of brakes, no metallic clatter, just the steady, rhythmic chug of an engine that shouldn't exist. Jake nudged me. "See? I told you," he hissed, his voice trembling with excitement. But I couldn't respond. My eyes were fixed on the train, which had come to a halt at the platform. The doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing nothing but darkness within. A figure stepped out, and my blood ran cold. It was a conductor, dressed in a crisp, old-fashioned uniform. But something was off. His face was pale, almost translucent, and his eyes were hollow pits of shadow. He held out a lantern that flickered with an eerie green light. "Tickets, please," the conductor called, his voice deep and echoing unnaturally in the still night. No one answered, yet he nodded as if greeting passengers. That's when I saw them. Figures began emerging from the fog, moving towards the train. They were people, but not entirely. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, and their faces were blank, devoid of any emotion or features. One by one, they boarded the train without hesitation, disappearing into the dark interiors. Jake, always braver, or stupider, than me, stood up. "I'm going to get closer," he whispered, already moving before I could stop him. "Jake, no," I hissed, grabbing his arm, but he shook me off. As he crept toward the platform, the conductor's head snapped in his direction. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, the conductor smiled, a slow, chilling grin that didn't reach his hollow eyes. "Join us," the conductor said, his voice dripping with malice. Jake froze, his courage evaporating. He stumbled backward, and the conductor took a step forward, extending a skeletal hand. "There's always room for one more." The train emitted a loud whistle, the sound so piercing it felt like it vibrated through my very bones. Jake bolted back to where I was hiding, his face pale and drenched in sweat. "Let's go," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Let's get out of here." We ran without looking back, the sound of the train fading into the distance as we left the station far behind. When we finally stopped, gasping for breath, I turned to Jake. "What the hell was that?" "I don't know," he admitted, his voice shaking. "But I'm never coming back here again. The next morning, we told my grandmother about what we'd seen. Her expression turned grim. She told us the story of the phantom train wasn't just a legend. Decades ago, a passenger train had derailed on those tracks, killing everyone on board. Since then, the train was said to return, collecting lost souls to replace the ones it had taken that night. I tried to dismiss it, to rationalize what we'd seen as a trick of the fog and our overactive imaginations. But deep down, I knew the truth. The phantom train was real, and we had been lucky, very lucky, not to become its newest passengers.